Welcome to the Let Them Live podcast with Emily Burning, a place for meaningful conversations, real stories, and a shared mission to protect life. What's up, everybody? Ooh, sounds a little loud now. Welcome back to another episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I'm so happy to be here. And this one is going to be a great episode for all of our coffee lovers. I'm really excited because we have talked coffee before on the podcast. And I think the pro-life movement just really loves coffee. So for all the coffee lovers, welcome. And if you don't drink coffee, you should start drinking coffee because we have a wonderful company that supports pro-life causes. So, what's a better way to enjoy your morning brew, get your kick, get your energy in for the day, also knowing that your money has gone to support something amazing, something that you stand for. So today we have Jeff Chon, and he's going to be talking to us about his and his wife's company, Pro-Life Coffee Roasters, and also about his personal testimony that is really like the backbone and the backstory of why they got into all of this. So welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on this podcast, and what you guys are doing is amazing. So
thank you. Yeah, well,
thankful.
this is the best thing because this is just a beautiful blend of what God has intended, right? Like all of us doing a piece, doing a part, answering our calling. And I think it's kind of cool that your guys' calling involves coffee, which is awesome. It's really amazing too to have you on, because when I was talking to your wife, we had been talking kind of about Let Them Live, and then your coffee company, and then she had talked a little bit about your backstory, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get him on the podcast. So I would love for you to share your testimony and your story and your background and how this all came to be.
Yeah, so my name's Jeff Chon. So I'm a first generation Korean American. My parents moved to the United States in the late 70s, and my sister was born in Korea, and they weren't expecting to have any more kids. And so when they got to the States, my mom got pregnant, and she basically was going to have an abortion. And I didn't find out this whole story till I was a teenager. It was kind of actually, it was kind of sad. Like, oh, I was supposed to be aborted. But the long story short is my great aunt, who is a believer, who is already living in the States. In the Korean culture, it's a very honoring culture. So your elders, you got to pretty much listen to them. And she basically told my mom, like, there's no way you're aborting this baby. Like, this is not God's plan. And my parents aren't even Christians, but just out of honor and respect, she chose to listen to my great aunt, who basically is kind of like a grandmother to me. And I wasn't aborted, and I didn't find out about this till I was about 16, 17 years old. And it just really spoke to me deeply that God had a plan for my life. And the wild thing is, I didn't even get saved till I was 15. So I have a pretty crazy, story with that. But I didn't find out till years later, after I got saved, that I was supposed to be aborted. So ever since my radical salvation at 15 years old, and then learning about more of my background through family that didn't want to no one wanted to tell me, like, hey, Jeff, by the way, you were supposed to be aborted, right?
Yeah, that's not something that people are eager to share, especially with a teenager.
Yeah, that's right. And at first I felt really rejected, but the more I, just contemplate, I was like, wow, God really had a plan for my life, because not only was supposed to be aborted, like, even I almost died before I got saved, because I was heavily into drugs and just got into a lot of crazy things. And after my salvation, I just saw, like, wow, God has a plan, and no man's going to stop it.
That's amazing. And it really shows, like, when you go through things like that, just how much you do value your life. And sometimes we take it for granted because that's all we know, right? Like, we know waking up in the morning and going throughout our day and going to bed and waking up the next morning. But when you learn things like that, especially at that age, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that as well. I feel like 16, I mean, I don't know, 16 for me, I feel like I was a good kid, but you're going through a lot. Like, you're going through a lot of changes. You're figuring out kind of who you are. Like, you're trying to find your footing. So, learning that, how did that affect you and like your identity? I mean, the good thing is it sounds like you were saved before that, which is awesome because you were probably more rooted in your identity in Christ. But how did that affect you at that age?
Yeah, so like I said, I had a radical salvation. I was actually in a gang in LA. and
Oh, okay, Jeff. All right,
and,
that was not what I was
and
expecting to hear.
yeah, yeah,
That's
and yeah,
wow,
I got into selling drugs, as a teenager, and I was an atheist. I didn't even
wow,
believe in God. I had no idea that I had any Christian background in my
wow,
history with family, and so the long story short
wow.
is my older brother got radically saved, and he basically led me to Christ. And it happened. I was actually going to commit suicide the day before I got saved because my life was just an absolute mess. I was heavy into drugs. My parents weren't obviously happy with me because I was a very crazy child, and I grew up in a very difficult, abusive home. So just the whole family mess, and so I actually almost ended my life. But after watching my brother's conversion, I thought, you know what? Before I blow my head off, maybe I'll just, go to his Bible study and just see if this
Yeah,
God
give it a
thing is,
try.
give it a, yeah. And so literally on November 7th of 97, I asked my brother to go to this Bible study, and I didn't, like I said, I was an atheist, and I went to this little Bible study, and I just walked in. There was no prayer, there was no worship, there was no word. I had no concept of God. I didn't know anything about church. Just put it like that, okay? I'm just like literally, and I just sit down and I just start weeping, and I literally cried for 90 minutes. The youth pastor later said, "You literally cried for an hour and a half." And while I was crying, I had a vision of Jesus hanging on a cross. And you got to understand, I wasn't even high during this meeting. Like, it was like an Apostle Paul encounter. Like, I literally
Yep.
just sat down. God knew that this young man's going to blow his head off if I don't meet him. And I literally just started weeping under the presence of God. And I saw a vision of Jesus, and he said, "I'm the one you've been looking for your whole life, but you have to choose me tonight." So I'm having a
Wow.
conversation in my mind while I'm weeping. And after 90 minutes, I literally
Wow.
get up, and
Yeah.
the youth pastor's looking at me and my brother and a few of the
Everyone's like,
Bible
"You
students.
good?"
They're like, "You okay, dude?" Like, and I'm like, "I saw Jesus." I just gave my life to him. And so yeah, I didn't die that night. I was going to, and I just
Wow.
literally I call it the Holy Spirit microwave. Like, literally within 24 hours, I went from like the local school drug dealer to like telling them that I encountered Jesus Christ. And so from
Wow.
that moment, I just knew, like, okay, God has a plan for my life, and I just became
Wow.
radical. And so years later, when I found out that I was supposed to be aborted, it just took it to a whole new level. Like, man,
Yeah.
God saved me to help save others, period. And so, like, that's one of the things that I just, I've been saved now
Love
almost
that.
27 years, right? Like, I just have a passion and a fire for life, for people to not die. And obviously that starts
Yeah.
all the way in the womb, and past that. But like, that's the heart of our
Yeah.
company, is like, we want to see lives saved.
Yeah.
And that's why Jesus came, right? He came to save us, right? He didn't
Save.
come here to give us some good suggestions and have a decent life. He came to save us from the mess that we're in, to save people in the most desperate of situations. And so that's the heart of us as a family and our business.
I love that. I clearly the passion is there, and I love what you said. You're like, God saved me so I could save other people, and I think that's a testament to how we live our lives. Like, we could live our lives in any way that we want, and we could live it with Jesus, without Jesus. But clearly there's a purpose. And I find myself thinking about these types of deep conversations all the time, like what's our purpose on earth, and we're on this
Mhm.
like rotating orb, floating through space. And really it puts it into perspective when you've had experiences like that. And I think a lot of people can relate. I mean, I've personally been in really messed up situations, and yeah, messed. I mean, just the only thing that could get me out of that was my faith. And I'm sure friends and family too, after, like you said, the Holy Spirit microwave, they were probably like, who is this guy? Like, are you good? What happened? Like, you're probably just a completely different person overnight. I mean, what was that like?
Well, the crazy thing is, my dad actually kicked me out of the house because he was a
What?
Buddhist. He said, if you're gonna
Wow.
follow I've heard of stories like this, like overseas, but I didn't know in America that you can get kicked out of your house for your faith. But that's how serious I became. I was just like, I am not.
Wow.
I told my parents, like, I gave my life to Jesus, and I'm one of those all or nothing types where, like, if I really love something, like coffee, like God, like I just go all in, right? I don't do anything 50%. And so my dad actually said, hey, if you're gonna follow this Jesus, leave right now, like literally right now.
Wow.
I couldn't even grab my stuff from my room. And so my youth pastor, basically, I just slept in like different friends' houses, and like
Wow.
that's a whole nother crazy story. But like Jesus never promised that it'd be easy, but that he'd always be with me. And one of the craziest testimonies from my own heart is, I was sleeping at a friend's house once. I'm barely saved 6 months, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm literally sleeping in a food pantry because they didn't know where to put me. And so they just made me this makeshift bed, and I'm sleeping next to Campbell's soup and Cheerios. And I remember just laying there, like, looking like, man, it costs everything to follow Jesus Christ. Like, even
Yeah.
and Jesus said, like, man, even you have to forsake everything, even your family, even if they don't approve of this. And I remember just weeping in this pantry at like 16 years old, weeping, just like, man, this is tough. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
sign up for this. And I just remember hearing this really still small voice saying, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, out of Jeremiah 29:11.
Mhm.
And I just was like, okay, God, this doesn't make any sense. I'm sleeping in a pantry. I'm abandoned by my own family, my parents, but I know you have a plan for my life. And it's sometimes in the darkest times is when you call out to God. He just meets you right where you're at. and
Yeah.
and I understand, like, for example, struggling mothers that are contemplating, abortion, right? It's like, man, like, I have a heart for them. It's not just like, that's wrong, it's like, man, people
Yeah.
have a story. Jesus
Yeah.
had compassion, right, at the woman at the well. He wasn't just like, you're in sin, what do you do? He's just like,
Yeah.
hey, I got something better for you.
Yeah. He met her where she was
That's
at
right, that's
in
right.
in a gentle way. And I've heard
Yeah,
so many stories, and sometimes God meets people. I mean, sometimes it might be like, like, let's go, come on, what are you
yeah,
doing? But a
yeah,
lot of other times it's very compassionate, it's very
yeah,
gentle.
yeah.
How God comes to us. And it makes me think of, I think it's like 2 Corinthians. I don't know, I'm really bad at remembering Bible verses, but it's in my weakness, like, your grace, or you are made strong.
Yeah.
And that's something that we hear from our moms a lot, like, well, why am I going through this? Why am I having such a hard time? Like, I don't understand this. And it's always just about, yeah, we can't see this bigger picture. Sometimes we just don't know the full story of what's going on, but there's a purpose and there's a reason for it. I mean, there was a reason your mom, I mean, this is amazing to me, because I think just it's a different culture that we have here in America, where i, I don't know if anyone would like cancel an abortion, or decide not to have an abortion simply out of like respect for their elders. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to hear that is really amazing, because that clearly meant a lot to her. And that type of culture is what saved your life. I mean, that's amazing.
Mhm.
And unfortunately that's not really the society that we have now, or I don't know, maybe really ever had. I think Asian cultures are beautiful in that way, where there is respect. Um, but that's where we can come alongside and help these moms and give them the support that they need, because they are going to need that support.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's why we give 20% off our sale. that's not off the net. That's off the gross. So if you buy a $20 bag, you get 20% off that. That's $4. I mean, that's and we just felt like tithing is like Old Testament. Let's double it. Let's double this thing, because I just believe that is being generous. I'm not saying this is a pat on my shoulder. It's a kingdom principle. It's just simply a
Yes.
kingdom principle to be generous. And we just want to give back to pro-life
Mhm.
organizations and movements that are really wanting to save lives and help moms that are and families that are struggling through a
I love
compassionate
that.
heart. It's not just like, hey, this is murder. It is. It's terrible. You don't do this, right? But it's like, also it's like, man, we know you're going through something to make
Yeah.
that, to come to that extreme, right?
Yes. Yep.
We
Like
want to
there's a
show
reason,
That's
right?
right. We
Like
want to show
when
the heart. We want to show the heart of like, hey, there's God saved my life. I slept in pantries. It didn't make sense. It was depressing and discouraging at times. But man, look at, decades later, I got a wife and 4 kids. And
Mhm.
it's like, if you would have told me at 16 I have a wife with 4 kids and a business, I would have literally laughed at you.
Yep.
I would have
Yep.
laughed at you.
Been like, "No, that's not possible." Well, and that kinda brings up too, I think, sometimes people who advocate for abortion bring up, well, they're gonna have a really awful life and, it's just better to have the abortion because, they're not gonna be loved or wanted by their parents, and probably for some of your life, you felt those things, but that didn't invalidate your existence or make it so that, I mean, look, you just talked about your beautiful life. You have a wife, 4 kids. I mean, you guys live in a beautiful place. You live in Alaska. Like, I mean, you're loving life. Alaska was my 50th state I visited, so we love it.
Nice.
But you're loving life. And so how does that type of argument make you feel? Like, yes, there was a really hard part of your life there for that time. Some people would say, well, that's a reason that you should have been aborted.
Yeah. The best. Have you watched any of the Chosen episodes? Those are.
Oh my gosh, Jeff, it's
Yeah.
so crazy that you bring this up
Uh,
because we're doing a series right now at church and it's based on The Chosen, and I've
yeah.
watched bits and pieces, but I told Nathan, I was like, "We need to sit down, watch it from episode 1 and just go through it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
goosebumps." But yes, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think like the piece that's so important to me is the gospel. It's like without the gospel, it's like what's the point? Like that's what gives us the hope. That's what gives us the life. That's what where the impossible becomes possible.
Mhm.
And when I talk to people that are struggling, because I've been doing ministry for over a couple decades now, and 20 years of that in Ethiopia, where you see the most desperate of desperate of desperate situations. It's one of the most difficult and poorest countries in the world. I've heard every story imaginable. If you can only imagine ministering in a country like Ethiopia for 20 years, you've seen it
Mhm.
all, you've heard it all. And what I always tell people is, hey, you may not get to live the American dream, right? You may not, I can't promise you that, but I could promise you that God is always with you.
Mhm.
Period. And
Yep.
that's a promise. I will never
Mhm.
leave you nor forsake you. And
Yep.
when a struggling person, a mom or dad or whoever is willing to take that step of faith and
Yes.
say, "Hey, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, we don't have what it takes to raise this child, but we're going to give our heart to God." I mean, that's it. It's like I've
Yep.
tried this argument a million times in different ways. It's just like Jesus said, "I have something for you." He told the woman at the well, "Hey, I have water that will actually nourish you."
Yeah, you won't ever be thirsty.
That's right. And
Yeah.
it's that willingness to take that step of like, we're not sure how, I mean, we didn't plan to have 4 kids. It's
Yeah.
like I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna have 4 kids, but it's like
Yep.
as each kid came, and we always felt as a family that there would be one parent at home. We've
Mhm.
never been a two working family and putting kids in daycare. I'm not being negative about that. I'm just saying this is our own personal convictions, but we've lived off for most of our child rearing years on one income, and we just trusted God that, hey,
Yeah.
these kids you've given us, you're going to provide, and he's provided in such supernatural, miraculous ways. And
Yes.
That's what I tell, people that are struggling, like, hey, we have a supernatural God
Yes, we
that can
do.
help you and
Yeah.
meet you. You didn't expect this, but trust me, by
Yes.
you turning to God, He will help you. I could promise you that.
Yep. Because he promises that in the Bible, God doesn't he uses like a very affirmative statements, right? I will be there. Not like, oh, I might be sometimes occasionally. Very definitive statements. I will. I love you. Not like, oh, maybe sometimes I love you. And God, this is something that's mind-blowing to me because as humans, we get stuck sometimes in our own little thought process of okay, I got to pay my bills and um, oh, I don't have enough money and oh, I'm dealing with this problem with a friend of mine, right? We get and something this is part of the reason I love living by the beach in the ocean is it's so massive and it gets me thinking every time just how small things are and just how big God is. And God exists out of time, He exists outside of money. So when we are struggling and we're afraid we're not going to have enough, God is abundant. Right? God doesn't have a budget. God doesn't have a cap on anything. And Nathan and I have experienced that firsthand as well where I mean honestly sometimes it felt like money just came out of nowhere and we're like what the heck? Like where did this come from, and we've seen that happen with our moms too, and I think it's amazing how like you guys have started this company to kind of loop back to that. I mean, why coffee? Like I guess it could have been anything, right? But what about coffee kind of like spoke to you guys and yeah, just share about that.
Yeah, so in 2005, newly married, basically barely a year. Yeah, we're almost at 21 years.
Oh, hey, congratulations. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
my wife and I went to Ethiopia because we have just a heart for orphans and widows,
Yeah.
and we heard about this amazing church planting movement in Ethiopia. So in '05, we went there for a whole summer, and it was the first time I saw like thousands and thousands of street kids in the city. It was just like overwhelming. And but what was amazing was the church, like just seeing people with the most joy I've ever seen, though they barely have anything, and it was
Yeah.
just a real heart processing time. Well, the crazy thing is Ethiopia is the birthplace of coffee. That's where, in the beginning, in Genesis, he put coffee in Ethiopia. Okay. Just like Alaskan salmon, right? These aren't farm raised fish, these are wild salmon that come here and live here in Alaska. And so, because a lot of the places we would travel to, they couldn't, put this big spread for the guests, because you're a minister, they want to honor you, but it's kind of hard to, honor foreigners sometimes with a fancy spread if you don't got the money, right? They have
Mhm.
coffee. And so my wife and I would drink a ton of coffee every day because we're the guests from America traveling, ministering in Ethiopia. And they had coffee and popcorn. That's what they do there. That's their thing. Kind of
I
like
love that.
tea and crumpets in England, it's coffee and popcorn in
Coffee and
Ethiopia.
popcorn.
And so after, going there, on and off for 20 years, literally, this summer will be our 20th, anniversary going to Ethiopia. We're just like, man, how can we bring this coffee to America and use this as like our tent making, like the Apostle Paul? The Apostle Paul made tents. I'd rather do coffee. Like, tent making is cool, but
That's for Coleman.
yeah, the Apostle Paul made tents and preached the gospel through making tents. And he was a great tent maker. I mean, the Bible says he had business partners, Priscilla and Aquila. I mean, they made good
Yep.
tents. But I just thought, man, why not this coffee
Yep.
that's from the birthplace of coffee? And you know what's amazing? We're one of the few coffee roasting companies that can actually claim we import our own coffee from a specific farm to America and roast it. So most companies that have coffee, they've never even visited where that coffee came from. They have no idea it's kind of like, I mean, I'll just be honest, like our clothes, like who made our clothes, right? But at
Yeah.
least with our coffee, we're like, oh no, we
You
know
know
that
exactly
we know,
where it's coming from.
people weren't trafficked. There's no illegal slave labors. People aren't getting raped. people aren't, these people are treated right. They're Christians.
Yeah.
Our coffee producers are believers, and so all the way from the source to us roasting it, it's literally, we know the whole chain. We have the whole
That's
chain locked
amazing.
down, and so we're not
Yeah.
just providing, we're a pro-life coffee roasting company. No, we genuinely want to
Yeah.
give people the best quality coffee from the birthplace of coffee.
I
So we're
love that
not
because
just
it's yeah, it's not just like the mission's a huge part of it, but then you're like, we want to deliver a quality product. We want people to love our coffee, and I still need to get a coffee grinder to grind the coffee that you guys sent me. But every single person I've talked to, my best friend is in love with your coffee. It's so good, and she's a coffee lady. So you guys clearly want to deliver a good product.
Yeah, like we just believe, like, okay, if you're gonna have a bold name like Pro Life Coffee, I mean, that's pretty in your face. And we knew when we had picked that name, it's probably not the most seeker sensitive name, but we don't really care. We're very clear of what we're doing. So to have a name like that, we want a product that's gonna match that same intensity of, like, hey, we're not just trying to sell you a vision, we're trying to sell you a vision with the product to match that, because I believe excellence is a kingdom principle. And when we have no shortcuts, and the thing is,
Yeah.
our pricing, if you go to any specialty coffee company and you see our pricing per ounce per pound, we're extremely competitive. And then on top of that,
Mhm.
we're giving 20% of every sale. And that the reason we can do that is because we import our own coffee, like, because we're buying it at the source and there's
You
no
don't have
middleman. No
middlemen.
middleman.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and the Lord told us, take that middleman profit that you can give yourself and give it to pro-life. The Holy
That's
Spirit
awesome.
specifically said, you can make more money and charge more, but I actually want you to charge less and give more because you
Yep.
can. And we're just like, all right, let's do
Yeah,
it.
when the Holy Spirit says something, you're like, "Okay, all
Let's do
right."
it.
You know, you
Done
gotta
deal.
just gotta do it,
Yeah.
and trust that it'll happen, and I think that's, quite amazing, and honestly too, I mean, obviously, this is kind of like an aside from the pro-life movement, but, something that I thought was cool that you talked about was, just, like, the ethical, sourcing of the coffee beans and the coffee itself, because we actually have a really good friend. He's on our board. He's from Ethiopia. He was adopted from Ethiopia, but as a kid, he was like sold into slavery, and I mean it's a really messed up situation down over in Ethiopia. And so it's really cool to hear that's something that means a lot to you guys, and also you're creating jobs. I mean that's a really cool thing too, is creating a job environment for people, and kind of yeah, just injecting the economy there. So I think that it supports a number of different causes when you buy a bag of this coffee, and you know that it's good stuff. It's going to taste great, and that you can enjoy it knowing that it's ethical and it's going to good causes, and the owners support the same cause that we all love, and that's supporting women, and I just love that. So I'm glad that coffee is the thing that you guys got into, because clearly you're passionate about it and you're really good at it.
Do you mind if I add one more quick thing?
Go for
Um,
it, please.
we really believe that, um, one of the things we are planning, and I'm going to share this with you, is
Yay.
we're planning to get an ultrasound machine to start a clinic in Ethiopia,
Wow.
at the source where this coffee. So it's not just like we're roasting coffee in America and giving 20% of sale and supporting different organizations. Yes, but we want to bring it all the way back to the source. And
Yeah.
I had a friend that I shared this with. They actually, this is an anonymous person, but they donated $5,000 right away. They're like, hey, we want to donate to that
Um,
um, ultrasound machine. And so I'm not asking for a donation. I'm just saying the coffee that people buy, one of our main goals for this year is to purchase an ultrasound machine. And we have multiple doctor friends in Ethiopia that are a part of the church that we work with that are going to help facilitate this and help this happen, because a lot of people don't know that in the third world, abortion is rampant, because
it
especially
is.
with all this Western influence, they're like, I don't
Yeah.
want to have babies. It's like, no, we're gonna help our American side, and we're gonna help the
Yes.
origin side of where this coffee comes from. So that's one of our main
That's
projects that
amazing.
we're working on this year is to buy an ultrasound machine and actually start a pregnancy crisis center there. Come on.
That's amazing. That's literally amazing too, because sometimes, kind of like what I was talking about, we can get caught up in our own stuff, and I think Americans, we can get caught up in and think that America is the only country in the world, and and it's a good reminder that actually there's women struggling all over. In fact, I was reading this morning just some statistics from the World Health Organization about abortion, and there's 73 million abortions annually worldwide. So worldwide means not just in the United States. There's a huge amount of abortions happening. And there's just not the resources. Women need to be able to see their babies. So how much, this is probably something I should know, but how much does an ultrasound machine cost usually?
So the numbers we found, because we want to get something decent, it's 20 to 30K is
Okay.
about something we can buy there. There's
That's
cheaper ones,
awesome.
but we're like, man, no, we want excellence, and we really
Yep.
want this pregnancy center that we're wanting to birth there. No pun intended, but literally start this year to be successful and have reliable equipment. Because man, we're planning to minister to a lot of women. And here's the cool thing: we're not just gonna encourage them to not abort by 50% of moms that see an image, right, will not abort, but we have churches to plug them into. In fact, we're partnered with 900 churches in Ethiopia. So
That's
it's not like
amazing. That's
we're
amazing.
just like, let's go out there and ultrasound. No, no, no. We're going to bring women in, minister to them practically, show them an image of their beautiful baby, and have an army of churches that they can plug into for discipleship and post care. So we've really thought this through. It's not just like,
That's
let's go and
amazing.
feed a bunch of people. It's like, no, just like, when I got saved, people helped me
Yeah.
get to where I am, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
anyways,
I
that's
love that. Well, you guys heard it. So that there's a goal this year. Is for this year to get the ultrasound machine. So go buy that coffee. And I'm sure that is there a way to, if someone does want to donate, is there a way to make an extra, or should they just purchase a whole bunch of coffee?
buy coffee, but you could also just email us at hello@prolifecoffeeroasters.com. Our website is very simple, prolifecoffeeroasters.com, and you can email us or just order coffee. But our heart is to do what's important to Jesus Christ. He said, "Let the little children come to me." And he said, if you cause one of these to stumble, it's better to tie a millstone around your neck and drown yourself. And I don't say that harshly. I say that it is like, wow,
Yeah.
that's a hard scripture for me to swallow. But what it shows is the intensity and the fire God has to save children, to
Yes.
save lives. And we want to partner with God. And we want to
Yes.
partner with that mission of like, let's let the
Protect
little
life.
children and let's be practical about it. So
Yep. 100%. Well, I love that. I love your mission. I love your energy and your passion. I mean, it's very clear that this is the calling. So yeah, again, just to repeat it, you guys, please go buy some coffee, prolifecoffeeroasters.com. And then you can also email if you'd like to support, because they're again buying that ultrasound machine. It would be amazing to support that. Hello at
yep.
prolifecoffeeroasters.com.
Or the
Did I get that
contact
right?
section on the website at Pro Life Coffee. Yeah, just we're happy to answer any questions. And it's thank you so much, Emily, for your time, for your what you're doing. God bless you for the organization, and looking forward to see what unfolds just from all this, because ultimately it's his work and his plan, and we get to partner with different aspects of what God's doing.
Yeah, that's what we're called to do, and I love using any platform that we have to support other people that are doing the work too. So thank you again for being on, and I'm going to say it one more time for everyone, go buy your coffee, prolifecoffeeroasters.com. Thank you guys again for listening, for watching, for sticking around, and I hope that the next time that you guys listen to the podcast, you are sipping on your Pro Life Coffee Roasters coffee. All right, thanks Jeff again, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Let Them Live podcast with Emily Burning. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know your thoughts in the comments and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.